Welcome to Raise Women, the podcast. I'm your host, Tash, and this is a space where we share women's experiences and stories while building confidence and understanding in areas of faith, life, and the marketplace. Stay connected and join the conversation through our Instagram and Facebook pages at Raised Women Podcast. Today we're excited to have Cynthia with us in our In Her Shoes segment, where we highlight women empowering women through their life journeys. Cynthia will be sharing her experiences with addiction and recovery, but more importantly, her passion for helping others in this space. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hello.
Really excited about having Cynthia here. The reason being is because I do believe that Raise Women is a platform where we can raise other women up with whatever our lived experiences are, but more importantly, what we really feel we're purposed in. Now we're going to get stuck into it. How would you define addiction?
So my definition of addiction is something that I obsess about, I'm compulsive over, that comes before everything else, and anything that's important to me becomes unimportant when I'm stuck in addiction. So it can be a substance, usually a substance, but it can be a behavior, it can be food, it can be any of those things, but it becomes so consuming of my life that the things I love become unimportant to me, and I lose the things I love because I'm stuck in a cycle of obsessive compulsive against my own will.
And how would you sum up the definition of recovery?
So recovery is when I recognize that I have this addiction and that I do the things that I need to do, and that can change at all times, but there's so many different ways, but I'm counteracting that obsessive compulsiveness inside me with positive behaviors that then help me then focus on what's really important to me, like the good things, like my family, my God, all those things. Recovery can be as simple as praying every day, writing every day, simple as that, but it can be as depth as going out of my way to help other people, because when I help other people, I then help myself.
And probably another key term I think it's important for everyone to know is, what does clean time mean?
So clean time to me is an abstinence from all mind-altering substances. If I am working on a behaviour that's addictive, that means an abstinence from bottom lines, which is something that I work on with someone else, and work on what's healthy for me and what's not healthy for me, like in relationships and in boundaries and all that stuff. So any behaviours that I recognise are dangerous for me, I have to abstain from them as well.
And when it comes to the space of recovery and addiction, what exactly is it that you're really passionate about in this particular space?
The biggest part that I'm definitely passionate about is fellowship on all levels. That includes service, which is where I give of myself freely and without reward, like without monetary reward or a solid reward. I mean, there is a huge reward in it, to help somebody else who is struggling with addiction to come out of that. But I can't help anyone if I'm not helping myself first. So I have to be really aware that I'm filling up my bucket so I can help someone else. That's where God comes into play, because without God to hold me, I can't hold myself. And if I can't hold myself, helping someone else can become quite unhealthy as well. So I'm really passionate about fellowship. And when I say about fellowship, that's about having fun together with other people who are recovering from addiction. I'm part of committees that put together like camps and cricket games and barbecues and that kind of stuff. And I work really hard in these because I love seeing people having fun without a drink in their hand, without having to turn to drugs, without and going out with young people and showing them that they can be safe in those places but still enjoy themselves.
The area of addiction and recovery, why is it so important to you?
There's nothing better than seeing, like with the women that I mentor, there's nothing better than seeing them live lives that they couldn't dream possible. And that doesn't happen when they're stuck in addiction. Like addiction kills the purpose in us. It kills the spirit in us, and just seeing that spirit come alive. And personally, because I do think a big part for me is because I was raised in addiction, and watching my mum destroy herself over and over again made me feel less than. And watching the women in my life put themselves second for people's addictions, because it's riddled in all of my family. My mum was an addict, so, watching her only escape from that was to use. It made me feel so powerless. It made me feel so alone. And one reason, like 20 years ago when I came into recovery and I saw that it sparked the spirit in me that was so destroyed, because I saw people enjoying each other, people living lives that, they'd come from these horrible lives, and then they were living amazing lives, but they were happy and they were smiling and they were being kind to each other and that stuff. And it just, it still fills my heart. Like, I can't explain how it still lights my soul.
Before we get into the little nitty questions for this particular segment, we're just going to hear what Cynthia's story is. So I'm just going to hand that over to you, and you start where you want to and you share what you would like to.
First off, I did share just before about my parents. Both of my parents were using drugs, quite strong drugs, and they had parents that were alcoholics. My mum is 3-generation white Australian, and my great-grandfather come back from the war and he was violent alcoholic, and we didn't find that out until one of my nana's sisters became an Alzheimer's. The story all came put together in the last couple of years. But my nana then married 2 alcoholic men, violent. Then my mum became a drug addict, and with my dad. My dad is Anglo-Indian. He came from India at 11, so he came to country town in Kalgoorlie, and straight away he was treated like an Indigenous person. He started drugs very young. I also had an auntie she was always good. She was the only one that didn't use. So my parents were forced to get married because they were pregnant with me. It was very violent from very young. And I believed, my very first thoughts that I remember, I believed it was my fault they were unhappy. And as I got older, I realised that I was already born with what I call the disease of addiction, the obsessive, self-obsessed thoughts, because I believed the violence was my job. And when I was about 8, they separated finally. It was a lot of stuff, a lot of trauma in those things, but they separated finally. My mum started using heroin, and it was pretty toxically tragic. So by the time I was 11, this is when that was all happening, it got really bad really quickly for my mum. I don't know, I kind of lost hope, and I thought God couldn't even help me. And then things just kept getting worse. My mum went to jail when I was 13. My dad decided that he needed to go around the world on a holiday with his best friend. Drugs started looking more and more like an option. And then a couple of years later, I tried to really be good girl. Like, I really tried to be good. It wasn't long before, from being fun in the nightclubs and fun to sitting in the gutter crying, literally, because I was out of control. And it was rapid. It was really rapid. But by then my addiction was so bad. So I started going into a psychosis. And so my mum used to lock me in a caravan. She'd give me enough drugs so I wouldn't run away, but so the police wouldn't find me, or so I wouldn't get locked up. So then by the time I was 20, I fell pregnant. Things didn't get better. They got worse for that next year, and there was a lot of basically me just giving up on any kind of faith that I had completely. I tried to go away again. There was lots of things that I tried to do. It just didn't work. The second baby came. I got clean. I did 8 months on my own. It was the first time I'd ever really done, okay, I'm going to do this. But I didn't have a program. I didn't know anybody else. I had no friends. I was miserable, put on 20 kilos. I had no friends at all. And my auntie, after 8 months, she's like, oh, you're doing so good. Come out for a drink. And I kind of knew that it powerless. Like, God made me very aware that that's not going to be a good idea. I didn't know any better. And I had that first drink, and it's like a switch went off in my head, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I just was like, more. I need more. And a week later, I had a shot, an injection in front of my 6-year-old. Drugs didn't even work, but the obsession, for me, addiction isn't the actual, when I take the substance, it's the obsession before I take the substance. It was so powerful. Like, I was disgusted. It was like I was out of my body and I was disgusted, but I couldn't stop. Saw the movie 28 Days. That's what enlightened me to maybe there's something different than just counselling. I did a whole year of therapy, psychology, counselling. None of it gave me any other way out. And my mum was on her way back to jail, really bad situation. So she was going for a long time. And I said to her, so I was 27, and I said, Mum, this is not working. Just before I had that conversation, my little daughter, who was 3, was walking around going, look, Mummy, hitting herself. It's another generation down the drain. And it really hit me. Another generation of females are going to be messed up. So we started the process for rehab. And so rehab, it took 3 months to get into rehab. And in those 3 months, so I was alone and had nothing, things were starting to look good again. But I knew in my heart that it was a cycle. So in those 3 months for rehab, I would use every day and ring the rehab and say, please let me in, please let me in, please let me in. I just kind of knew in my heart that I had to be there. And so that's a 15 years solid of drugs and drugs use. 10 of that was every day, all day.
What was the turning point in your life when you realised you needed to change, but you actually did start changing? What was that exact point?
My daughter was like hitting herself and saying I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do this anymore. And then I had that thing about when I saw my daughter and God saying, yep, this is another generation, and then I was like, when my mum said, stay here and I'll fix you. And I was just like, it doesn't work. Like, I fully knew that all of the stuff that I'd been doing for those 10 years to try and be okay didn't work, and I needed something new. Like, I didn't know what rehab was going to do. I thought it was the 28-day movie, you go to this place for 28 days and it's all good. I just was so sick and tired of being sick and tired.
What was the difference between what you were trying to do, which didn't work, and then what you finally did do, then that did work?
First thing that comes to mind is the abstinence. My whole life before recovery, I'm just going to do this, but I'm just going to have a little bit of this later. I'm going to do it later. When I came in and they said it's abstinence program, I went, oh, thank God. Like, I just kind of went, thank God, because I could do a few months and I could do this and I could do that. And then a little bit won't hurt. It would just be hell. But I don't think abstinence on its own would last very long. Actually, I know abstinence on its own it just can send you crazy. It's the having people like one of the biggest problems I had when it was trying to get clean on my own was I would make friends, but I'm attracted to, I'm drawn to the people who are like me, who are damaged, and then we'd end up using together. In the fellowships that I'm a part of, that I feel safe in, are ones with people who understand me and who want that same thing. Because I would, even when I wasn't doing it, I'm obsessing about it kind of thing. So I need people who have that same thing. So what recovery gave me is 1, abstinence first, is without abstinence, I have no chance. 2, gave me fellowship with people who understood and want the same thing. And then to make it easier, there's a very, very direct program that you follow.
And to a person listening right now to your story about addiction and recovery, what is the one takeaway that you want to give about your story?
I guess that there's nothing that happens in life that's worth using. There's nothing that using of any kind, that's drinking, whatever, is going to make better. If you are like me or have an addiction problem, there is nothing in life that's going to make that worth it. I've seen so many people think that just that one drink is going to make it worth it, and they lose everything that they had. You can come from horrible addiction and change your life. Like, it's actually possible. It just involves a lot of work sometimes. And even when it doesn't feel worth it, it's so worth it.
Well, Cynthia, I just want to say thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your addiction and recovery story with us. I also know there will be people listening who can relate to this episode. This series, In Her Shoes, is all about women sharing their experiences and stories. And next week, we will continue with Cynthia's. This is Raised Women the podcast, your push-play community in faith, life and the marketplace. Visit raisedwomen.com.au to see how we support women through all seasons. I'm your host Tash. Thank you for joining us. Stay blessed.